Welcome to ADHD Mums. Have you ever volunteered to get milk and then briefly considered starting a new life at the servo? Because same. If you're functioning but only because stopping isn't an option, then this is for you. No silver linings, just the truth. Let's get into it.
I was procrastinating last week because I didn't want to get back to my accountant, and I saw a post in the Facebook group from Beck. And it was so interesting, I asked her to send in an audio question, which she did. Thank you so much, Beck. Let's check it out.
Hi, Jane. Okay, I was just wondering if this was an ADHD thing. I can't, or I won't, eat or do something for myself until I feel like I've achieved something. So, for example, this morning I dropped the kids to school. I still haven't had brekkie, but the kitchen is a mess from dinner and from making school lunches. So I need to clean it before I feel like I'm allowed to eat, or before I feel like my mind is clear enough to allow myself to make breakfast and then eat. But also, I will make sure that I put a load of washing on as well, so that something is being done while I'm sitting and eating and I'm not wasting time. So I could get to like 11 a.m. in the morning and only just be sitting down to eat because I feel like I've done enough. So I was just wondering if it's a thing or whether it's just me and I'm a bit weird. Thanks.
No, you are not freaking weird. That is one of the most common experiences. And I really thank you for your question because it really got me thinking about it. And I did some research, went hard, and I really hope that you enjoy this episode. The question isn't whether it's a thing. It is definitely a thing. It's actually lots of different things. And I kind of wanted to make this podcast episode a bit of a choose your own adventure. Listen for the one that's you, and then we'll go over what you can do when you know which one you are. You know how when your baby is crying, you run through the list. Hungry, hurt, tired, overstimulated, same cry. And you have to try and problem solve what the cry means. Because if you problem solve the wrong cry, then your baby doesn't stop crying. You know that awful feeling when you offer your boob or the bottle and the baby just keeps screaming and it won't even take the boob or the bottle? And then you realize, oh, the baby wasn't hungry. Maybe the baby was overtired. But now I've made it worse because I've woken the baby up and kind of like pissed it off. So now you've got to backtrack, settle it down to the same level of crying it was before and pick a different problem to try and solve and hope that you've picked the right one. That might seem unrelated, but that's actually really similar to what you're describing, Beck, with the kitchen. It looks like one thing on the surface. Beck, ADHD mums, me, we can't sit down until the kitchen's clean. Now, that's not a blanket statement. Some people can. Some neurotypical mums probably struggle to sit down until the kitchen's clean, but there are different drivers underneath that. Now, from the outside, the drivers around not being able to sit down until the kitchen's clean can look really similar. From the inside, it can feel really similar too. So, how do you know which one is not letting you sit down and eat until the kitchen's clean or whatever it is the story? And it doesn't have to be the kitchen. A lot of us have this in so many different areas. I won't allow myself to do this until I've done that. And each one of these reasons requires something slightly different to get you eating a little bit earlier than 11 a.m. back. So for some of us, we might have been trying the wrong strategy. And that's why so many of us are stuck in this loop and we don't know why, but we end up eating at 11 a.m. If you've ever read, you deserve rest, you should do more self-care, you should sit down in the morning and do a meditation and a beautiful breakfast, and then you should visualize your dreams and have lunch and do self-care and read a book. Do you ever feel worse when you hear things like that? I actually find a lot of that advice quite grating and I just can't read it. Depending on your neurotype, that might be a real stretch, if not impossible. But if you can't access that part of yourself, we then feel worse, like we're failing or we're guilty for not doing the thing. So we try harder, assuming we're not trying hard enough, but yet we are still not able to do the thing, which is having breakfast and feeding yourself first. Now, what I would relate that back to is my example earlier if you try and give your baby a bottle or a boob and it's not hungry and you piss it off more than what it was before, that's kind of like us trying to do all of the things, not knowing which baby is crying. So today we are going to find out why we struggle to sit down or eat or do basic human requirements before we've done something else, or we have to wait till we've cleaned the kitchen before we feed ourselves. There are so many different scenarios. And this isn't just about cleaning a kitchen and not eating until 11 a.m. Reflect on your own situation of when you can't sit down, why can't you rest? What it is that you have to do first before you can do that. Why is it after Saturday sport you can't sit down and have lunch? You need to clean the kitchen before you can do that. What is your own version of this? When I was reflecting on this episode, knowing that I wanted to put a fair bit of information into it, but also people are driving, they're folding, washing, they don't know where their phone is. I wanted to make it super easy to follow. Rather than having complex names, a quiz at the end, I thought, what metaphor that's going to stick in your brain so you will know when you hear it which one you are. I have come back to the baby crying as the most relative example for mums that I'm hoping will stick with you. So there are 4 babies. And I'm going to go into each baby, so please don't start guessing your baby yet. The first baby, the hungry baby. You are hungry for worth. That is the hungry baby. Your brain learned somewhere along the way that you have to earn your way to good things. And rest feels like trying to eat without paying for the meal first. Reason 2, the overstimulated baby. This is the mum whose mess feels like it's screaming at her. It's not just something that she can visually ignore. It's a sensory hot pot screaming at her. Clean me. It is grinding. It is at her. This baby is screaming and she cannot ignore it. Her nervous system is registering every single dirty plate. And it's like all the crumbs have alarms. And all the dirt on the floor makes that mum feel that they can't think, breathe, or eat until the alarm is off. That mess is stimulating the mum. Can't move on. It needs to rest, but it can't. Number 3, the overtired baby who can't fall asleep. The brain that doesn't know when it's done. The little signal that's supposed to fire when the task is finished, the one that says, good job, you can stop now, that doesn't fire for her. So the mum keeps going, not because she wants to, but because her brain can't find the off switch. The baby that doesn't know it's tired, and so it just keeps going and going and going. It doesn't get the message, quiet time, I'm tired, lay down, sleep. It just keeps going. If you have a hyperactive child, you will be very familiar with this type of baby. The 4th reason is the imaginary friend baby. You know that phase? They're like 3 and they're talking to somebody that you can't see. They're setting a plate for them and they get upset if you sit on them by accident. The friend is real for them, even though the chair at the table is empty. For a mum, could be like an invisible witness in the corner of every room watching you do mum life. You can't see her, but she's eating a plate of food and she's judging your kitchen. The mess isn't the problem. She is. She is behind you all the time, monitoring you and judging you, even if no one's coming over. 4 babies, 1 cry. Completely different strategies to how to move forward. So let's find yours. There is a questionnaire. We're going to do it via audio. What a challenge for me to be able to deliver this in a way that you're going to remember. There is only 4 questions. There is 1 for each baby. And you don't need to write anything down because we're using the baby metaphor. Question 1. If the kitchen was already clean when you walked in, just imagine magic, fairies, your mother-in-law on a guilt trip, and you're like, oh my God, that's shocking. It's all clean. Would you still find another task to do before you sat down to eat? Or if the kitchen is clean, do you find something else to do before you sit down to have breakfast? Answers, yes or no. Would you find another task to do before you sat down to eat? If your answer is no, I wouldn't find another task to do, I would go and have breakfast, then we don't have your baby yet. If your answer, yes, you would find another task even if the kitchen was clean. If that is you, you are the hungry baby. And remember what type of baby you are, nothing else. Question 2. If you knew with absolute certainty that no one would ever see your kitchen, not your partner, not your mum, kids, it would never tell anybody, no one would ever see it. It only matters to you. Would you still need to clean the kitchen? If yes, you would still clean the kitchen before you sit down to eat, even if no one else would see it, then that is the imaginary friend baby. That is a reflection that the standard is performance-based. Remember what type of baby you are, nothing else. Question 3. When you finish cleaning the kitchen, does your body feel flat, neutral, or a bit wired? If that is you and you do not feel relieved, relaxed, and then you take a break, you sit down, you eat, and you're somebody that goes to the next thing, then that is the overtired baby. Your brain finished the task, well done. You've done the kitchen. However, you don't really feel that in your body. If you are somebody that feels relieved, like, oh, job's over, I'm going to read a book for a second, or I'm going to go outside or I'll cook myself a nice lunch, well done. If that's you, then you are not the overtired baby. You are the overtired baby if your brain finished the task, but your body still feels really amped up. Last question. Does the messy kitchen feel like a noise or something that you can't turn off? Does it feel like the dishes are screaming at you? You can't ignore it. You just can't understand how someone could leave it. Maybe you have a partner, family, or friend that says, just leave it, don't worry about it. And you're like, I can't ignore it. It's just there. Do you feel like there's an alarm running in the background that you have to silence before doing anything? If that is you, that is the overstimulated baby. The mess isn't just a mess. It's volume. It can feel like an alarm. It's screaming at you. There's no way that you can not clean that before you eat. So, quick check. Was there one here that made your stomach drop, that made you think, oh, that's me? If you're not sure, I'm going to say them back so you don't have to remember. The hungry baby. You would find another task even if the kitchen was clean. You would come home, you go, oh, the magical fairy's in the kitchen. I'll find something else to do before I can eat. That is the hungry baby. You are hungry for worth, hungry for the next task. Second one, the imaginary friend baby. Even if no one's coming over, you would clean it because you have your imaginary friend there watching and judging you for your messy kitchen. Third one, the overtired baby. You just go to the next thing and the next thing. You don't sit down to enjoy the breakfast. You don't feel done, even though the kitchen is done. Or the fourth one, the overstimulated baby, when the mess feels like an alarm. It's not just a mess, it's following you, it's screaming at you, you have to clean it. Out of these 4 babies, most of us will do all 4 in different ways, but there's usually a primary driver that's the loudest. I've got a blog that I'm going to put up on my website. It's got a longer version with all of the science behind each one. Link is going to be in the show notes. So if you want to read the blog later tonight and have a think about it, of course, not a worry. Okay. If you are someone that's tried to change this, tried to have breakfast first, really wanted to be the person that would leave the mess, look after your body, nourish yourself, and then have the energy to get up and move, but you just don't know why, you never seem to be able to do it. One of the reasons why so many of us are stuck in this loop is because every behavior that you keep repeating on a loop is meeting a need. Every single one. A lot of us know this about our children, like, oh, my child has unmet needs at school. That's why they do this. Or my child has an unmet need here. But some of us haven't put that together with ourselves. Every behavior and loop that we are doing is meeting a need, every single one. And that is just how brains work. If you keep cleaning the kitchen before you can eat, as an example, your brain is getting something out of it, something that it thinks it needs, something that it's decided is more important than breakfast. Now, you can't change a behavior until you know what need it's meeting. That's why the advice around, you deserve rest, mama, Fill up your cup first. That's why a lot of that stuff just slides right off, and maybe we hear it and it feels nice, but does that change your behavior at other times? A lot of the time it doesn't. If you've heard advice around lower your standards, just sit down, put yourself first. It's all great advice, don't get me wrong. But if you're finding that that doesn't translate in what you're actually doing in your day-to-day life, it doesn't mean the advice is wrong, but it means that the advice is for the wrong baby. So if you're, for example, going, you need to put the tired baby down earlier for a nap so it doesn't get so overtired, that's really good. But if you have an overstimulated baby, that strategy is not going to work. If you are the hungry baby, this is the timestamp to listen to. You might recognize the hungry baby if you are someone who can't sit down to watch a movie until the washing's folded. You might find that you can't book the haircut without earning it with a productive morning. You can't buy yourself the coffee unless you've ticked something off first. Maybe you went on annual leave and then you just did admin. Maybe you won an award and then immediately listed everything you hadn't done yet. You might know someone that's running this baby in their lives, or it might be you. You might have a friend who asks you to come over for dinner, but then won't sit down. She keeps topping up the plates, wiping the bench, rearranging the cheese board, putting more biscuits out. She's doing 12 things while you're eating. She's the host who says, no, I'm fine, you eat. And then she ate her dinner standing up at the sink at 10 o'clock after you all left, and you were like, why are you doing this? I don't know why you can't sit down. Maybe you have a boss who emails you at 11 p.m. and you're pretty sure from the tone of the email that they haven't had lunch. Anyone that you know that can't enjoy something without paying for it first is this one. That's the hungry baby. That is the one where worth got wired to output and productivity a long time ago, probably before they had language for it. So if you are this baby and you're 40 and you're a mum, your nervous system might keep like a bit of a bookkeeping service. There might be receipts stacked up, old school, and sitting down might feel like spending money that you don't have. For example, I watched my dad and my grandma chainsaw down a tree when she was 80. And the whole time, the two of them were telling each other to sit down and have a rest, whilst neither of them sat down and had a rest, and they just kept telling the other one to. I remember standing there near them, watching, thinking, I do not want to be like this. This is the most painful thing I've fucking seen. However, I catch myself and I am exactly like that. I watch my daughter now doing that. Here's some examples about how the hungry baby shows up. You might be an ADHD mum that writes me emails like this. Every weekend, I tell myself I'm not going to clean. Sunday's the day. Cup of tea in bed, the beach. This Sunday, I'm going to rest. However, a lot of the emails that I get will say that on the Sunday, when it comes, they just start doing what they've always done. They put things away, wipe things, move things, clean things, and do all of the things, even though they said they wouldn't do that. And then suddenly it's Sunday afternoon and they can't remember what happened in the morning. And it's always the worst when that happens and then the house is still trash because people ruined it as you were doing it. You didn't have the rest that you said you were going to have. And it seems like every time you think you're going to do that, you just don't seem to end up doing it. That's the hungry baby. And that is not just a kitchen problem. That is not just Beck having breakfast at 11 a.m. That is a self-worth issue. That is Beck needing proof. She needs the receipt. She needs to see you have done this, this, and this. Now you can have breakfast. Evidence that she has earned that right. The need is real. You can't just pretend it's not there. You can't just say, hey, Beck, you deserve some rest, mate. That's not going to work for her. If you are that baby, that belief is pretty well ingrained, right? It's going to be in your nervous system, in your body. And it would be actually easier if it just lived in your brain and you could intellectually learn it, right? You can read the self-love books. You can be self-compassionate. You can do a gratitude journal. You can do affirmations. But your body won't let you have breakfast until you've cleaned the kitchen. And sometimes the advice can make it harder because now, on top of not being able to rest, you're also failing at self-care. I should believe I deserve rest, but I don't. And now I'm failing at that too. So reading the information and trying to build up self-esteem or self-care so then you want to have breakfast first is probably not going to work. However, something that will start to create some change is to catch the moment when your brain says, clean the kitchen before I sit down. Not after, during. The second the thought arrives, then you're like, oh, I just want to clean up the kitchen before I have breakfast. In the moment, as that thought comes and drops right in, don't argue with it. Don't push through, just notice. You're not trying to make it stop. You're trying to make the baby visible so she's not invisible. Awareness is key here. Right now, that crying baby is running the show and you can't even see it. You experience it as if you haven't done enough yet, but you don't even know why. And then slowly, what we need to do is to build evidence in the other direction. So once a week, one small thing for yourself without earning it. Now, what won't work is something big. What won't work is walking back in and going, I'm not going to clean the kitchen, I'm going to have breakfast first. That might seem like too big. The way to change these type of things is to start small. Maybe when you come home, you have one glass of water, 10 seconds. I bet you that would be hard for people with this baby. A glass of water before the bench is wiped. A biscuit at 9 a.m. in your mouth before you unpack the dishwasher. The point isn't the act. It's probably going to be very difficult to take a full 30 minutes and have a nice slow breakfast. The point isn't what you do. The point is giving the hungry baby a data point that says nothing bad happened when I didn't earn that cup of water. Nothing bad happened to me. I could do it. Then you're doing another and another. You're laying a new track over the 20 years of old tracks. You are not going to undo it in 6 weeks. That would be the dream, wouldn't it? But you can lay one new line of tracks per week. If you only do one thing, be aware of what the baby is. You don't even have to try and stop the baby. Just notice the thought and stop and see it. Be aware. Then after that step, you have the cup of water and build in things slowly. The brain goes to the path of least resistance. You are laying down a new pathway for your brain to work in. If you are someone who is able to access one-to-one psychology, for example, some great deep work for this hungry baby is schema therapy, or IFS. The blog post on my website explains why. If you have access to one-to-one therapy, I would recommend that. That is a path that could actually help you change that. Now, number 2, the overstimulated baby. You might recognize this baby if you can't think in a cluttered room. You feel physically calmer in a hotel room because nothing there is yours to deal with. Lego on the floor isn't just a toy. It is like noise. You can't stand it. Maybe you are somebody who gets really stressed with a sticky bench. Maybe you've gotten in the car and driven away because you couldn't be in the same house as that pile of washing. You might know someone who's running this baby, the person who can't have anyone over until everything's perfect. Not because she expects you to have your house like that, but because she can't relax with anyone in the house if one of the rooms isn't right. You might have a colleague at work and they have an immaculate desk. And if you pop something onto her desk that isn't in the right place because you're returning something, she might actually look quite stressed about that. She might be the person after school where she says she just has to go home and do the load of washing. She can't stay any longer. She has to get that done. You might know a sister, a friend, someone who reorganizes your kitchen when they stay. You might have a partner who can't watch TV if there's dishes in the sink. That's the overstimulated baby. That is when mess isn't just visual, it's actually a sensory experience. It's volume, it's an alarm, it feels really urgent. You cannot relax until it's sorted out. Your nervous system might be looking at, for example, the kitchen with dirty plates as like low-grade threat. Like You can't think, breathe, or eat until the alarm is off. The fact that someone else would leave that mess and sit in the mess and have breakfast, you cannot fathom. Now, this baby is particularly unreasonable. This baby doesn't care how reasonable the mess is. For example, she doesn't care that you had 3 kids and 2 were sick and that you had to have some friends over and you helped someone out. That baby is relentless. It doesn't care about the context. The alarm continues to sound no matter what the context is. That threat alarm is going. Now, there is some articles and journals that talk about this particular overstimulated baby. Advice out there to build tolerance to this type of mess, as an example. However, this particular overstimulated baby isn't low on tolerance. It's that the signal on that alarm is really loud. So asking you to tolerate the mess and the screaming alarm, if you are one that has this baby, is actually really tricky. And it can be complete sensory overload for some ADHD mums. So building tolerance to a screaming alarm, I don't think is particularly helpful. However, that advice might work with neurotypical people, I don't know. But with this particular overstimulated baby, what I believe is more helpful for an ADHD mum is to turn the noise off, turn the alarm off. Because having an alarm sounding at you with mess would be very stressful, right? So if this is you, the overstimulated baby, turn the loudest alarm off first. Walk in from drop-off, figure out what is stressing you out the most. Where is the alarm the loudest? Maybe it's the sticky bench. Maybe that's what you wipe first. Now, as I say that, a lot of you might go, oh, well, but obviously you'd unpack the dishwasher first. Then you would get all the dirty dishes and put them in the dishwasher. Wiping the bench is the last thing. Okay, that story is not going to help you with the overstimulated baby. The order in which it happens may be the first thing that needs to shift. If you find that the bench is a major alarm and that is where your nervous system is feeling it the most, the bench is also the last place that gets cleaned a lot of the time. So the answer isn't to do a full clean and wipe the bench last while the alarm sounds, is it? You wipe the bench first so you can start to think, even if that is not the right order. Once the loudest alarm has turned off, reduce the other alarms and turn off as many alarms as you can first. Number 2, one of the most difficult things here with the overstimulated baby is when you're walking back into the house and the alarm starts screaming, particularly if you've done drop-off, and let's say the drop-off is a little stressful, and you come back home and then the alarms are going off. What we need to do here is solve it the step before. If you are someone with this overstimulated baby, it is really worthwhile to try and do things the night before. I heard in Beck's voicemail that she said that they had dinner that was still out from the night before. And that added to her feelings of stress when she arrived. Not that she's the overstimulated baby, I'm just using an example. So for Beck, it might be that running the dishwasher overnight is really important. It might be that packing the lunches the night before is important. It might be that you empty the gross water from the dishwasher before you go to bed, not when you wake up. It might be that is getting in the way of you being able to have breakfast before 11 a.m. So it's not just about walking in and having the willpower somehow to eat breakfast. If you are the overstimulated baby, eating in a situation like this with the mess screaming around you would be really difficult. So you're not solving it by being stronger. You are solving it by walking into less noise. And you might need to have a chat if you live with teenagers or others that can help you about how you can reduce the amount of mess that you're walking back into if it's impacting that you're not able to have breakfast till 11 a.m. So it could be a real sensory load issue is this overstimulated baby. It's not just that the dishes annoy you, it actually affects your nervous system. If you find that talking to the people that you live with isn't working, you might notice that they might not have the alarm system that you have. They might say, I'll just leave it, don't worry about it. And to them, it's not a big deal. But you're not being unreasonable. You're operating in a different sensory environment to others. So they may not hear the alarm of the dishwasher. They're not tracking it. So they're like, what's the big deal? But for you, it is. So you might need to look at explaining that. Number 3, the overtired baby. You might recognize this baby if you're the one who finishes work and then you open another laptop tab. You might go on a holiday, but within 2 days, you're organizing lots of day trips and you're just filling all the time in. You might sit down to watch a movie, but within 5 minutes, you're online shopping and doing other things that you don't need. You might find Sundays with nothing on makes you really anxious. Anytime there isn't a task lined up might also make you anxious. You don't know what to do with yourself when nothing needs doing. You might know someone running this baby. You might notice her because she might be the person that answers emails on her honeymoon. There might be a retiree neighbour that you know, and she said she finally relaxed, but now she's running 2 committees. You might have a friend who books their annual leave and then renovates their house. Anyone who can't land and rest very well, overtired baby. This one is neurological and it's really specific to your wiring. ADHD brains often underprocess the dopamine that's supposed to fire when a task is finished. Now, in a neurotypical brain, if you finish the kitchen, you would get like a really small reward signal. Good work, you can stop now. Take a break. That's not a thought, it's a chemical message. So you can't create it with an affirmation or some self-care. It's a chemical in your brain. If you have this brain, you might find that the signal saying, well done, you can stop now, is kind of muted. Or it doesn't fire at all. So let's say you finish the kitchen, but then you feel really flat or wired or like unsettled, like something's not right. What do I have to do next? I'm checking my list. I'm writing emails and doing things whilst I'm like shoving some food in, and I don't care what the food is because I just want to get to the next thing. You might find that you have a brain that because it doesn't receive the good work, that's all done, you can have a rest now, it will just go looking for another task. If you have a brain that doesn't seem to have an off switch and it keeps going and going no matter what, that's the overtired baby. If you have hyperactive ADHD kids, you will know this very well when you have a child that's tired but they won't sleep. They actually get a bit more hyper sometimes. And you are waiting for them to lay down and read and wind down and they just don't get the signal. That is the overstimulated baby. That is an off switch that isn't firing. If you're someone who can go and go and go and go and go all day, and then you start a list of other things that you could do tomorrow, and then start getting lists of things that you don't even have to do that would be nice to have, and then start writing them on the list, and overestimate how much time and capacity you have every day, that is the brain searching for a task because it's not getting the message, stop now. That message isn't arriving. The stop now, have a break, well done, it doesn't come or it's muted. And so they just keep looking for the next task over and over again. It's a loop. Now, the advice is give yourself permission to rest. If you are someone with this overtired baby, does that work? No. Is it helpful? Also no. My personal opinion. I don't know anyone that has been able to work with the overtired baby by giving themselves permission to rest, or reading a book about resting, or watching a reel about how someone else rests and then just starting to do it. The permission is not the issue. You fully believe that you deserve breakfast. You fully believe that you deserve to rest. You do heaps more than other people, but you're still not resting. Your body isn't resting. You're not landing in the place where you sit down and chill. And that is a neurological signal that says task complete. So permission doesn't create dopamine. Believing harder and trying harder to rest doesn't create dopamine. Mindfulness, meditation without addressing the gap often makes it feel worse for the person. The brain then is more understimulated, sitting quietly, and the search amps up. You feel more restless, not less. That might be somebody that struggles to meditate and says they feel worse. That might be part of that. Might be. So what does work? You have to give your brain the completion signal artificially. Your brain is not going to fire a well done, good job, time to rest signal. It's not going to generate one, so you need to create one artificially. Willing yourself to have one won't work. So what does this mean? A timer that goes off when the kitchen is done. A specific song that plays at the end of the task. Turning off the kitchen light deliberately, like you're closing a shop or going to bed, job done. Anything that creates a sensory feeling around the moment that your brain can register. I wouldn't trust your internal sense of done. It's probably not there. Use external markers, body cues. Stop waiting until you feel ready to eat. The feeling's probably not going to come. Use a timer. Kids dropped off equals eating. Boil kettle when you walk in. Kettle equals food in the microwave, eating. Action sequence becomes the trigger. Pair rest with a little bit of low-grade stimulation. It's probably not going to be likely that you're going to eat in silence, enjoying every mindful bite. For your wiring, you might need to put input in. Podcast, audiobook, video on in the background. Your brain needs a little bit of stimulation to stop scanning for the next thing. This doesn't mean that resting doesn't count, but it might be a condition that you need to make rest possible for your brain. Sitting quietly with your thoughts might not be something that you're going to be doing very often. Another really great strategy here is medication. It's not for everybody. Some people aren't able to take medication, can't find the right one, or don't believe it is an appropriate thing for them. And of course, consult your medical practitioner. However, I can't not mention medication here. This overtired baby is a dopamine system issue. Stimulants address this directly. It doesn't fix it by taking medication, but you have more dopamine available to make a different choice. It makes other options more possible, more available. The next one, the imaginary baby, the good mum. You might recognize this baby if you wipe the bench before the cleaner comes. You tidy the car before drop-off. You make the bed at the hotel. You apologize for the mess when people come over, even though there isn't one. You text people in advance, the house is wrecked, don't judge me, but then you frantically clean it before they walk in. You hide things when guests come, not embarrassing things, but like normal life things like the bin, the washing pile, the vitamin bottle on the bench. You feel tightness if someone arrives unannounced, not because of who's there, but because of what the house looks like in that exact second compares to what you think it should look like. You might know someone running this baby. Maybe it's your mother-in-law whose house is always immaculate and you don't know how. Maybe it's the school mum whose child's lunchbox looks like a magazine spread, but she's not doing it for the child. She's doing it because someone might see the lunchbox. Anyone who performs mum or woman who has it together for an audience that isn't there is one of these babies. That is the imaginary friend baby. The one where you absorbed a standard somewhere along the way for what a good mother looks like. Competent, on top of it, house presentable, kids fed, no visible struggles, morning sorted, and the standard runs even when there's no one around. This imaginary friend baby doesn't take any breaks. The baby is with you at the school gate. When you smile at other people, they judge that as to whether you were happy or not. The imaginary friend baby is at the parent-teacher interview when you say, yes, we do read every night, but you haven't read once in years. She's on Instagram when you delete the photo because the background's not right and you're worried that someone will see it. She's at your mum's house. She's at your mother-in-law's house. She came on holiday with you. And even if you tell her to leave, she doesn't. You can't figure out how to get rid of her, but she's always there. What can we do with this one? The advice to people here for the imaginary baby is to lower your standards. That's pretty simple. Just lower your standards. But it's not about outside standards. It's about inside. And the judge isn't the mother-in-law or the school mums or anyone that you know. You can't lower a standard because you don't actually remember having the standard and adopting it and saying that was the standard. The checklist of what you need to do, you didn't write. You don't even know how it got there. Just letting it go and relaxing and being in the moment makes it sound like this baby is a choice. But it's not a choice. It's a rule that you've inherited. And the advice carries a backhanded insult that you're being silly or vain or performing. But it's actually not about that. You're running someone else's rules and it's your imaginary friend. But you don't even know how you got her. She's not even your friend. So why is she here? So what does work? Name the rule when it activates. Not the abstract version, the specific one. We don't sit down until we're done. A good mum's house doesn't have vitamin bottles on the bench. Someone might see it. When you notice a rule, all the towels must be folded and put it away the moment they come out of the dryer. Whatever the rule is, notice the rule and say it out loud. Write it on a sticky note, put it on the fridge if you need to. Repetition does it. Now have a look at the rule when you notice it. Who taught this rule to you? The rule wasn't born with you, it's come from somewhere, or probably more than one person. Social media is a great delivery system of these type of rules. If you are an imaginary friend baby, that is something that can be really difficult for you. It can be reel after reel of 50 different mums' best 10 seconds edited together with music. Scrolling might even making the rules harder to achieve or the higher standards every time you scroll. If you are someone who's very affected by scrolling and that type of thing, this could be your baby. What can we do with this baby? To start with, we need to do visible breaches of the rules weekly. Eat breakfast in a messy kitchen and don't fix it after. Leave the bed unmade. When you notice a rule, think about where it's come from, be aware of the rule, and try to fucking break it. Pick one thing that the rule says a good mum wouldn't do and do it. Not because the act matters, because your nervous system needs evidence that nothing happened when the rule didn't get its way. For example, if you are someone who says, sorry about the mess, and it comes out without you even knowing it's going to come out, when it starts to come out, don't say it. Stop. Even if you're mid-sentence, stop. Do not say it. Let the silence sit. That's the rule. That's not you. Let it just sit there and let them walk in without you having said, sorry about the mess. So that is the 4. The hungry baby, overstimulated baby, overtired baby, imaginary friend baby. One behaviour on the surface, I can't eat until the kitchen's clean, but 4 completely different strategies underneath. And the reason that nothing has stuck before now might be because you've been offering the wrong bottle to the wrong baby. If you tried to deserve rest and felt nothing, that might be that your baby wasn't hungry. If you tried to lower your standards and it made you feel worse, that might be because your baby wasn't the imaginary friend one. If you tried to sit quietly with your thoughts and it made you more restless, it might be because your baby was the overtired one. And the advice isn't wrong, it's just the wrong baby, which is why it might not have worked before. You will probably have one that's the loudest, but most of us have 2, 3, or 4 even. And the kitchen isn't the only place it shows up. The hungry baby is at the kitchen, sure, but she's also at the laptop at 11 o'clock at night. She might be at work when you can't sign off the email without rewriting it 3 times. Once you know which baby is yours, you will start to see them everywhere. So pick the loudest one and try the one thing that I said for that baby, just the one thing. If you'd love a deeper, more detailed version, please jump onto my blog. I'm going to put all of the information there. The references to the information here will be on the show notes. Beck, if you're still listening, you asked, am I freaking weird? You are not. But you've got a baby crying and you don't know which one it is. Now you do. If this landed, if you recognize one of these babies or 3 of them and you finally have the name for the thing that you've been doing and why you have breakfast at 11 a.m., please jump into the Facebook group and start a thread on what you thought of this episode and which baby you are. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.
That's today's episode. Thank you for listening. If you want that same podcast energy in a reading form, the ADHD Mum Shop is there on the website. See you next week.